Hey, what's up? My name is John Bonjour. I'm a comic artist and film enthusiast. I have not drawn any art, but I am enthusing about some film. This is a new video series that I'm calling What Are the Stakes? I'm just now realizing I should have done this series with Morbius. Because stakes... Vampires and steak... The idea for this video series is I'm going to go through and document the history of certain films, just like how from announcement to now, talk about what led up to this point, some interesting things. I want to center expectations, talk about interesting elements, unique notes, things that might be important. So that's the video, a little bit of history on Kraven The Hunter, as I'm calling him. The joke will never get old to me, and I'm going to keep making it in my daily life and with all my friends. So writer Richard Wenk. I might be wrong about how I'm pronouncing that name. Richard was hired in 2018 to write this movie. He has a story by credit. I believe he also has a writing credit. As with all Sony superhero movies, there's a couple of people with a writing credit. 2021 was when the movie was officially finally announced. That's when we found out that Aaron Taylor Johnson has signed on to play Kraven, which, an interesting point of history, Spider-Man No Way Home was coming out at that exact same year. So I get why you'd think this is a good idea. This is before a Madam Web, it's before a Morbius, this is as we're watching the Spider-Man universe get folded into the MCU, or so we thought. So yeah, it made sense for Aaron Taylor Johnson to sign on to a Sony Pictures Spider-Man movie because yeah, that's how you get there. As far as my research could tell, the movie was shot in 2022, they put together a teaser trailer, you can still find that online. They showed the movie to test audiences. Again, this is all allegedly. There's a lot of gray area in here where you can't be totally sure. From what I could tell, they showed it to a test audience. The test audience went, this is bad and you shouldn't make it. At the time it was surprising because again, the Venom movies are making money. Looking back on it now, it's like, yeah, that makes sense that they probably didn't do super great. So the natural next step is to do a bunch of reshoots, reframe a lot of the stuff, add some different things that people were missing. Again, this is all mostly conjecture, but point being, there are a lot of reports of bad test screenings and a reshoot, and then another reshoot. And then it gets delayed 4 times, 4 different separate times. Well, it gets delayed twice, moved back once, and then delayed again, which is never a great sign. Some of that, granted, is due to the actors' strike, but a lot of that is just because Sony was shuffling things around, as Sony tends to do. By the time they finally settle on their December 13th or 14th, whenever the exact date is, release date, Madam Web and Morbius and Venom 3 have all come out, and they're not great. I believe Venom 3 is still making money, so good for them, sure. But Madam Web and Morbius are a hugely bad sign. There's already blood in the water, and people are waiting now for another complete bomb. Which leads us to J.C. Chandor, the director of this movie, coming out in an interview and basically saying, the Spunk movies have not been good, but just give this one a chance. That is, I believe, the direct quote, give this one a chance, which is not a good sign. It's not a good sign if your director has to come out and be like, yeah, everything else that is connected to this is dog shit, but this one's good, I promise. You may notice that I'm adding a lot of personal color, flavor additives to the history recounting in this moment. And yeah, you're not wrong. I am not an objective man. I am a subjective man. I am dealing subjectively with these movies that are objectively pretty bad. So don't take this as an official history. Look it up. You can do the research yourself. This is just how I'm seeing these things, which leads me to yesterday. Well, at least as far as filming goes yesterday, they put out 8 minutes of Kraven the Hunter, and I haven't watched them because I'm gonna watch 8 minutes plus the rest of the minutes in the theater, and I don't want to ruin that experience, and by that I mean I don't want to add 8 minutes to this runtime. That being said, it is maybe the most desperate move I've seen a studio do since COVID, when they decided to randomly drop the day and date releases. Sony's done this before, where they put the first few minutes out of a movie between the theatrical and the home video release, which makes sense because it's like, hey, you saw this in the theater, here's a taste of watching it at home, get ready to watch it at home. That's, sure, do that, that's perfectly fine. I've never once partaken in the viewing experience of those 8 minutes because it's 8 minutes, it's such a weird thing to do. The point being, I get how you do it in that moment, but this is a weird call. The decision to put out 8 minutes of the movie before it comes out in theaters, as if to say, I promise this one isn't bad. Not desperate, for sure. There's ways to read it where they're just really excited about what they've come up with. I don't think that's what it is. So there's your history on Kraven. There's 2 other stakes that I want to talk about. The first being box office. Kraven has a reported budget of $110 to $150 million. not ridiculously overblown for a movie like this, so good for them. To do the math, you can always add about half the budget for the marketing. So for the sake of easy math, let's say it was made for $140 million. So with another $70 million on top, which is, hold on, I can do basic math. $210 million. Man, that took me way too long. So let's say it was made for $210 million. Current box office projections for the opening weekend are at a staggeringly low 20 to 21 million, which is bad. A little bit of context, Morbius, the probably worst movie in this franchise, opened to 39 million domestic. So not looking great for Kraven. Now that could be a combination of things. I think there's an argument to be made for even if this movie is good, people are just not expecting good things, especially after being somewhat let down with Venom, The Last Dance, which does lead me to the other stakes that I want to talk about. The more interesting one, the franchise and just Sony's general stake in this IP and this movie. This is the last thing that the Spunk has announced. We had that Hypno Hustler movie that was maybe going to be happening, and an El Muerto movie that was maybe going to be happening, but both of those are dead in the water as far as we know. They would have to basically re-announce them at this point. What's interesting to me is I don't know where we go from here. They've killed their cash cow. Spoilers for Venom 3. Venom is deceased, so what's your plan there? Even now there's theories going around that Spider-Man 4 is going to involve Tom Hardy's Venom, which does not make a lot of sense. Not looking great for them. So it's an interesting place where they find themselves. If this works, we'll probably get a bunch more Kraven movies. I imagine we'll get a Kraven trilogy. When this probably doesn't work, I don't know what they do. That's really the main stakes in this movie. If Kraven fails, where do you go? What do you do? Do you just announce more villain Spider-Man movies without Spider-Man? Is that the plan? That can't possibly be the plan. The obvious plan would be make good movies. The more obvious plan would be make Spider-Man movies. But I'm assuming there has to be something in the deal they made with Marvel that they can't make more Spider-Man movies outside of the Spider-Man movies they're making together. The interesting thing is, doing Spider-Man movies without Spider-Man was an inherently bad idea. It just was a bad idea. Much like doing a show about the Penguin was a bad idea. The difference is, the Penguin came with a really good story and a story they felt like they wanted to tell and something that was interesting, and then they made the show that everybody thought was a bad idea. Sony is going, who do we have? Okay, sure, yeah, make a Kraven movie. I don't care. What's it going to be about? It doesn't matter. Just make a Kraven movie. People want to see Kraven. That's been Sony's plan the whole time, is just make IP to have IP, and it doesn't work that way. The only reason people want to see more of the Penguin is because the Penguin show was actually good. And it's crazy to me that Sony hasn't figured out that they just have to make good movies. Or worse, they have figured out that they have to make good movies, and they're currently trying. It's such an interesting and unlikely place that they've put themselves in, and I'm really interested to see, because the stakes pretty much all fall on Kraven the Hunter. What do you think? Is Kraven going to be good? Is it going to make money? Are those two separate questions? Probably. Let me know in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching this video and checking out my channel. If you'd like to hear more of my thoughts on movies, comics, TV shows, Kraven T. Hunter, hit the like button, hit the subscribe, and comment down below what you'd like me to review next. Or do none of that, because I am not your dad.